All right, what's going on, everyone? We are back for another episode of the House Podcast. If you don't know me by now, I'm Josh Handler, your host with the Handler Zimmerman team over at Exit Realty Premier in Massapequa. And what do I have to say about this market? If you don't know already, somehow, the market is on absolute fire. That means if you're looking to buy a home, you're looking to sell a home, you need to call me right away, 516-732-6398. Ask me anything real estate related. Even if you're not looking to sell, but you have a question about the market, give me a call. We're more than happy to help. Without further ado, I have a killer guest on today. This guy has pretty much done it all, if you are asking myself. He is a VP at Cardinal Financial. He has founded Home Qualified. I'm sure anybody in the real estate industry has heard of that company. And also the owner of the Real Estate Disruptor network, is absolutely taking real estate by storm. I see him posting tons of knowledge, tons of everything all over social media. If you haven't heard of him yet, you're going to hear about him today. Ralph Dibugnara, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me. It's a good intro.
Oh, man. Yeah, we're trying to step it up every time, get a little bit, step it up.
I'm going to keep you around a little bit. That's really good. You did good. Thank you.
So, a lot of people, I never knew you until I started working, at Cardinal, and really, really looked into it and really saw like all the things that you really do, right? So for the people that don't really know you, this is really the first time for the most part that we really spoke. Obviously, you're more now in Jersey with everything going on, and we're not at the office anymore where, we would actually see each other. Yeah. So, for the people and myself, a little bit of background and stuff, like, how did Home Qualified even get started? Where did the Real Estate Disruptor come about? What got you in the industry? How long have you been in this industry, and really what got you around it in the first place?
Yeah. So I'm in mortgages since 2001, and when I graduated college, and at that point there was like this internet bubble with the stock market, and we may be seeing stuff like that again. The market was really, really inflated, and it kind of popped when I graduated, and I had a finance degree, and there was no jobs. And I wasn't a great student, to be totally honest with you, when I just kind of got through college, because I had to get through college. So when I got out there was really only sales jobs. I had a friend that was in mortgages. He said, hey, mortgages is really, really good right now. He started working for a company that eventually was going to go public. He said, come work here. So that was my beginning in mortgages, and I kind of rode that for 6 or 7 years. I worked for a company that became Deutsche Bank. They acquired us. And I did really, really well until 2008, and the market dropped out from underneath. And I started over essentially at that point. I mean, literally, it was the life lesson of all life lessons. I everything I had earned, I was making very, very good money at a very, very young age. I had 4 or 5 properties at that point. I was living in a penthouse apartment on Wall Street, and literally, that market didn't go from making a lot of money to like a little bit less money. It went from making a lot of money to no money, like literally no money.
Crazy. Yeah.
So I mismanaged my money, because I was a kid that came from really nothing, and I didn't know how to manage money. So I started over. I went back to being a loan officer. That's where I went to my partners, Frank, that that's where we started working with each other. And I just kind of rebuilt it again. And about 2013 or 14, I started Home Qualified, because I realized that I was always used to being a behind the scenes guy, but as I saw social media starting to take more of a hold of our industry and this becoming more of a thing, I realized that I had to put myself out front. So the first thing I kind of did, to be honest with you, was I had gotten to a point where I was running a decent sized division again, and I had made a foothold in mortgages again, and I had gotten to a decently successful level again. So I hired a PR agency, like a real PR agency, and I got a lesson in that too. And most of my successes have come after spending money on failures. So I got hired a PR agency, and they had got me on some new stuff, but I was running around like crazy doing PR. Hey, they would call me in the morning and be like Channel 4, and they'd be like, hey, we need a story about real estate in Manhattan. We need you to be here in an hour. We need you to write this, and that, and we need you to find a real estate agent that knows about this market. So it was like a job. I was like, I have a regular job. After like 6 months of doing this, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start making videos and writing stories for myself, and I'll start reaching out to people to see if I can get my own press. And that was what Home Qualified really was. At first, it was just a real estate news website, and still is that today, where it was for home buyer tips. And I really started with that stuff. And what I would do is I would I had like Apple News on my phone and Flipboard, and I would look through like real estate stories. I would see something that kind of rang a bell in my brain. I would repurpose it for myself. I would film a video for it, and then I would go on LinkedIn and like real estate blogs or wherever, and I would reach out to writers because they really need as much content as we need. And I would say, hey, I'm Ralph Dibugnara. I've been in the business for X, Y, Z years. I know this, and that. I just wrote a story about Long Island real estate. If you ever need anybody to quote, reach out to me. Here's a link to the story. And eventually, I got a contact at Realtor.com and Bankrate, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And I was in Newsday and the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, and so Home Qualify was really my avenue to get myself out there. And then it turned into more of a full-blown media company, and based around real estate. And I run my commercial mortgage company through there, but it was really something to just kind of be all around real estate, and that's how that was created. And that pushed me eventually into Real Estate Disruptor, which is really my community-based business, and that we're working on that today.
Right. No, I mean that's the Home Qualified story is really like that's a story.
Yeah.
So when you started really focusing on Home Qualified, did you really take a step back from doing like mortgages and stuff on that end, because that was really took up all your time and you were really looking to grow that business once it turned into that style where you had the future to really grow that into something?
I have never been able to step away from mortgages because it's always been what's really paid the bills, right? So that business, and I'll always have good things to say about the mortgage business because I feel like it's been very good to me. Whereas no matter in my worst year, I was still able to make money in it by just working hard. And I feel like real estate and mortgage is something that if you work hard at every single day, it'll give you the money back. So I've always been in the business, and that's always been my main thing every single day. So then you have to find enough hours in the day to do everything else.
Right.
I've always tried, and now my business is, the mortgage business and Home Qualified and Real Estate Disruptor are all kind of intertwined. And then, another lesson that I've learned is I've tried to start businesses outside of my sphere of influence, and it's always been very, very hard. But I feel like if I stay within my network or my sphere of influence, I can be successful. So, between my partners and the people around me, it's really helped me kind of network and then be the best at all three of them at the same time.
Yeah, no, 100%. I see, just things that you've done where, you've done open house, events with like Ryan Serhant, and you're doing all these, different videos, and, like you said, you help the community, you bring, some of the loan officers from Cardinal, and then you bring any of the realtors that want to come check it out. And like you're meshing like everybody together, and they're seeing, what your brand is really being able to create. And that draws more people to the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, now obviously COVID's changed some things and we've become more virtual. So we were doing a lot of events before this happened, and now everything's become virtual. And to be totally honest with you, and even for you, like I've seen how much podcasting you're doing in the last year. Like, you probably your branding's got even better over the last year. And I think all of us have had to step up our games virtually, but in the long run, we're going to be much better off because the world was going this way anyway. It just just sped it up, right? So now all the events, like I did an event, we do Disruptors Network now once a month. We're trying to have like a high level speaker. We did one yesterday. We had on Danny Morell, who's a big real estate guy from the West Coast. He kind of got famous because he hosted a conference called Relentless, where he had Kobe speak and Gary Vee and a bunch of big guys. And that's kind of how people found out about him. Before that, though, he was a millionaire at like 27. So I had him on yesterday, and it was a different kind of story because he just sold his real estate company and he's gotten very spiritual. So it was different, but I try to bring value first. So I always try to give free information out, and then I feel like you attract the right people through that. So that's really like Disruptors Network, Real Estate Disruptor is really my community-based education business, whereas we're giving out all this free information, and what you hope from it and what I've seen come back from it is people come back and they want to work with you at that point because they learned something. I'm using that now.
So have you seen a difference where COVID prior and now with COVID, that everything is now virtual compared to when everything and you were holding these big events and in person? Do you think that has negatively impacted any type of business where, people like to have that face-to-face interaction, meeting people, drinking, having a drink with each other compared to everybody being in front of a camera now?
I think there's nothing will ever replace like meeting and feeling a conversation one-on-one, because when somebody walks in the room, you can kind of feel the energy, you can kind of see what the direction is going. This makes it a little bit harder, but I also think it's made us a lot better because when I have a business conversation right now, you kind of get around the fluff. Like we pop up, we're on video, like you kind of get right to the point. Like, what are we both trying to get out of this conversation instead of, ordering food or this or that. Like you kind of get, so I like that because I think it's streamlined my day a lot more. Like I really can be a lot more scheduled now than I used to be. So it's improved me because, you know, I may go to lunch and it may take 2 hours instead of the hour it's supposed to take. But if I'm having a Zoom meeting, like I can really stick to my schedule. Right. And virtually, I think we've all had to find new ways to communicate. And now Clubhouse is a new thing that everybody's on, and I've gotten on in the last few weeks, and there's a lot of information on there. And these are people that I probably never would have been able to talk to because they would have been speaking all around the world and they wouldn't have been on the Clubhouse app. So I think that there's some positive that's come out of it. And when we go back to normal, I think it'll be a combination of both, but a lot more business will be done this way in the future.
Yeah. Do you feel like I mean, for myself, I learned a lot when this happened. I was able to, start doing, not only podcasts, live at the studio, but we do them live, like on StreamYard here, like with you. We're able to, we were speaking about, for a quick moment before we got on, we pay for a lot of Zillow leads for our client, for our team. And we used to meet the client for the first time at, we have a phone call with them and then meet them for the first time at the house, right? So you have a little bit of that awkwardness. Who am I looking for? Are we going to vibe well? Now we set up a Zoom call with them. We have a half hour, an hour conversation with them about all their needs, their wants. By the time you get them you meet them for the first time, you already feel like you're best friends because you spoke to them for an hour,
Like I feel like you feel. I feel like it's made me better. And for you too, you're right. You get there and you actually have a comfortability with each other before you meet each other. And it's not. And listen, realtors have a tough job because you guys are really the entry point into real estate, right? So like you're really the gatekeepers at the beginning, at the end of the day for all of us, for the mortgage companies, for the title companies, for the attorneys, for everything. You guys are the gatekeepers. So building a relationship is really most important for you up front. And now that I think you could do that more effectively, I only think it expands the business. And the other thing too is we were talking about this a little before we came on. Zillow, Redfin, Open Door, they were all trying to create a digital process, right? And I truly believe that they were hoping on guys like you and realtors out there to not go digital, to not go virtual, because that would have been their leg up. They're like, oh, these agents are archaic. They're going to stay in their Stone Age and they're going to try to do everything face to face. We're going to make everything digital and we're going to surpass them. Now, the smart ones like you have gone this way. So you're circumventing what their plan was. Like their plan was this. Okay, well, now I've adapted. So now you guys can't just roll over me. So what's next? So I think it plays to your advantage in a lot of ways because of that.
You're in the market. You're in the trenches. You have all these businesses that are all surrounded around real estate, right? Obviously, we spoke about it for a quick second. Again, this last week has all been about the Zillow craze, right? Everybody's saying, I lost our, even myself, we lost, we have now like 20 reviews out of 100 something plus. We have, 20 sales out of, 200, whatever the number is, right? And, what are you hearing any of background noise? What are people saying? Or are they saying we're jumping ship, we're not paying anymore with Zillow? Or, are they just saying, listen, we're just going to roll with the times? Like, what are you hearing?
Everybody's like you. Everybody's upset, and I hear, I'm hearing it nationally from national agents who have these national brands where there are multiple states where it's happening to them. But I think with Zillow, this is my opinion, this is my spin, and I tend to spin towards the positive, but this is my spin. I think it gave you guys a gift, just like COVID gave us a gift. It's the reason now to go brand your own websites and to make sure all your reviews and your sales are up on your own website. So when you're pushing people into things, when they're hitting the links on your profile, that they're going to find you on your own websites, and that can never be taken away from you. So I think that because of Zillow and Realtor and all these things, we got almost lazy with it. We're like, well, they're doing it for us. We'll just use that tool, which is not that's smart. But at the same time, I think it's given us like we really do have to brand. I think testimonials and reviews are the most important thing in real estate. I just bought I'm in contract on a property in Florida right now that I went down. I looked up the agent on Zillow. I went and looked at her reviews. It's an important aspect of it.
Right.
Idea where are you going to find it? So I just think that it's given us the reason that I'm still going to use Zillow because it's a tool, but I'm also going to protect myself and have my stuff somewhere else. So I'll start pushing my clients into my own website so they can refer people to my own website. And in the future, eventually, you won't need Zillow as much.
Right. I forgot. I read somebody said it the other day. Like you got to diversify yourself. Like we were all very set on Zillow. Like we depended on Zillow for our reviews, for everything like that. And now they took it away from us, and everyone's scrounging around, including myself. And you realize you got to diversify. Like have them put your reviews on Google, put your reviews on your own personal page. Like have all these reviews saved. So if something was like this to happen, you're not running around being like, shit, like all my stuff is gone.
Yeah. No, they've essentially made some people feel like they don't exist in the real estate business anymore. But again, now's the time. Now's the time to set up a website, put your reviews up there, have video testimonials up there, which you can't do on Zillow. Record your clients that are closing saying, this was the best experience, and I met Josh on Zoom. And, I just think that it gave you a little bit of a gift more than anything to be prepared.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it helped. And then what do you think of Clubhouse? So I just got on Clubhouse about a week ago. I got an invite, I think actually this week. What are your thoughts about it? A lot of people don't even know about it. I really didn't even know much about it because everyone's saying, oh, Clubhouse for Apple only. Some people are on it, some people aren't. And now you're seeing more and more influential people on it where, like, I saw Sirhan, he's like, oh, I'm good. I'm on it this week. This is, everybody's been, bothering me. I'm going to do our first Clubhouse call, this week or whatever. And so more and more, like, people that, are, disruptors in the area are really taking this by storm. And, what's your thoughts on it?
So somebody pushed me into it like a month and a half ago. And then I wasn't really paying too much attention to it, like a little bit. And then I saw Grant Cardone was on first. And then not only to see what he was on, but he was on all day. Like, I was getting notifications that he was in rooms, like, literally the whole entire day. And I was like, what is going on? So I went and looked on, and then Gary Vee was on. And then I was in a room with Damon from Shark Tank. And, Sirhan went on this week. And I started to realize that if these guys are paying attention that much to it, there needs to be something to it. So there's a good and a bad to it, because people in general like to hear themselves talk about themselves. Right? So, I think you have to get past that. But I will tell you that me personally, I've made some really good connections in the rooms with some high level people that we've then talked on Instagram, or we've talked offline, or I've had phone conversations about it. I think that you have to prepare yourself to have to get through some of the stuff you're not going to want to listen to all day. But, Ryan Serhan's a great example. I saw his room up the other day. I jumped in there. I was able to raise my hand and ask the question, where are you going to, I've met him before, obviously, but for most people, and even me, where am I going to be able to have a conversation with him? Where am I going to be able to have a conversation with Gary Vee or Grant Cardone? Like, there's a good chance that won't happen. And I will say, those people, the high-level people that are in there, are, from my experience so far, are giving out free high-level information. Like, I've learned some things in there. And again, you have to get past the fluff and some of the nonsense, but I think it's useful because I think just connecting. I was in a room, and this would be something good for you probably. I've been in a room twice now with and I don't know this lead service, but it's called Y Lobo. It's like
what's it called?
It's called Y Lobo. I don't even know how to spell it, but so I would definitely look it up. So the guy who owns the company has had rooms twice, and I got pushed into on one the other night, and I got pushed on stage to talk, and he kept bringing up agent after agent after agent nationwide who were doing a huge amount of business off of the software. So I think it's two things. I think you can put your own leads in there, and it's a follow-up software, but I think they also provide leads, and it does follow-ups for you. So what they were preaching the other day is that we keep rebuying our Zillow. We keep rebuying our own leads from Zillow. We have the leads on our database already. We're just not marketing to it.
Right.
So, and then he dragged in the guy from Follow Up Boss, who was the CEO of Follow Up Boss, was in there talking about his app. So, for me, it was something I had never heard of. There's a lot of agents out there using it. I was able to ask him questions and kind of get their feedback on it. And, of course, they're going to have good things to say about their app. But when I heard the agents getting up there and speaking well about it, so now I have a call at Y Lobo this week, and I have a call Follow Up Boss next week. So, like, I'm going to at least explore it. Now, maybe it's for me, maybe it's not, but I would have never known what it was unless I had this phone call. So unless I had this Clubhouse. So I think it's useful to get on there because it'll keep us. I want to be ahead. It'll keep us consistently ahead.
Right. Yeah. You're staying consistent with the times, and these guys are talking about the things that are going to take it to the next level or the next level. So you're trying to get in and figure out, is this something that really can take off, or it's something that, they're just spinning wheels on?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and, I think Gary Vee, and I like him sometimes and sometimes I don't. But I think mostly what I've learned from him, though, is that he never worries about giving out high-level new information because he's always trying to innovate more, right? He's always, and I feel the same way. Like, I'll tell you anything for free because I'm always trying to work on something new, right? So I think you're hearing these people give you little tidbits of what they're working on, and it's going to give you an inroad to do something better for yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of people used to think I can't share my secrets because, I got to keep it in my bubble because otherwise they're going to steal all my business. There's so much business out there. Nobody's stealing your business. If they want you, they're hiring you. And there's so many houses out there. You're not losing your business.
No, I agree. I completely agree with you. It doesn't make any sense to think that way at this point in life. The information's all out there. I could go learn how to build an engine on YouTube. So it's not like the information is out there. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
it doesn't really matter.
So, you being in the, huge in the mortgage industry, obviously you've been doing that for who knows how many years now. Where do you see the market? Everybody wants to know, where do you see the market going? Obviously everybody has their own, I think it's going to be 2 years. I think it's going to be a year. I think the rates are going to stay like this or like that. Where do you see the market going, for first time buyers or for the people that are looking to upgrade and, purchase that, $1 million house and get out? What are you seeing?
A couple of things. So I obviously went through 2008, and I know a lot of people are looking at like when's the next housing crisis coming. That's not going to happen again. The problem with that market, it was a market where we were overbuilt, so there was more inventory than they could sell, and Wall Street had such an appetite for mortgages that they kept opening up the guidelines. They were like, we need more. Well, how do we get more? Well, lower the credit scores, lower the down payments, raise the LTVs. So that's not happening this time. The guidelines have essentially stayed the guidelines, right? They've been like this for. There's some products that come here and there, but for the most part, it's been consistent. So 2000, and now we have an inventory shortage, not a surplus, a shortage.
Right.
So that shortage is not going anywhere for the next couple of years, at least in my opinion, because it's so backlogged that it's not going anywhere. So you're going to have a high demand and a low inventory for a significant amount of time. As far as interest rates go, I think you'll see them go up, but not. They'll go up to the high 3s and the 4s. They're not going to the 5s and the 6s. Not for a first-time homebuyer. They're not, because for a couple of reasons. One, the economy couldn't sustain it right now, and they're not going to be able to sustain it for the near future, in my opinion. And two, we've reached a new normal, and that's just my opinion. And I could be completely wrong on that. When I got in the business in the early 2000s, 6% was a low rate, and everybody was like, it's never going lower than this, right? And 5%, it was 4%, it was 3%, but if you put rates back up to 6-7% right now, where they've been in the 3s for so long, you would completely flatten out the housing market, and this country's never going to allow that to happen. So, right. In my opinion, rates will go up some. And look, and I'll give you an example of why you should buy now. I've been acquiring a lot of investment properties over the last couple of years. I bought a significant amount this year. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm reaching my saturation point, because you can only have 10 mortgages in your name basically at one time. So you have to start going the investor route, where you find financing that doesn't report to the credit reports, or commercial, or portfolio in your loans. When I look at the difference in rates between what I get as a personal conventional loan, which is high 2s, low 3s, right?
Right.
What I'm getting as an investor, which is 6, 7s, and 8s, the payment's a huge difference. It's a $500-$600 difference.
Right.
For the first-time home buyer, if you're not looking to go buy a house right now, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. As frustrating as the process is, as long as it's going to take you to find the house because there's no inventory, I think you still want to look when rates are this low, because it could be the difference of you being able to afford it and be able completely not to be able to afford it. Because even though prices are a little bit higher right now, interest rates being that low will make a much bigger difference than prices being high.
Yeah, and that's been one of the main things that we've been kind of hammering down with our agents, where you have to explain it to these clients where they don't realize, oh, I'm not paying over asking. Every single house in their mother is going over asking right now. If you like the house, there's 20 other people that like the house, and that means there's going to be pent up demand for it. So it's going to go over asking. But if you're willing to pay that $20,000 or $40,000 over asking, that's $100, maybe $200 a month in your payment. Your interest rate goes. If your interest rate is at 3% now, and you're going to go wait until it's 4, 4.5, it's going to be $300, $400 more, and you can't even spend that money. Like, you're able to spend that money now, and your payment will still be lower. So they just don't understand it.
They don't get it. No, listen, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. It was a friend that was a friend of a friend. He called me, and I was trying to prepare him for the process. I'm like, look, before you decide to go out there and look, get pre-approved, and after you get pre-approved, be 100% ready to buy a house and well-informed, because if you're not, you may go see a house the first day that you have to make an offer on. That second,
yeah,
if you're ready to make an offer that second, you may never find that house. And I've seen that happen. People are like, well, we just started looking. I don't want to make an offer on the first house. They may not find a house for 8 months.
Yeah.
So, you have to really be, when you're ready to go, when you hit that button, it's like jumping out of an airplane. You've got to be ready to jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when they say, oh, let's see one more house. And they say, oh, you know what? I really love that other house. Dude, that house was gone.
Gone. Yeah.
The hour we left, I was like, that house is long gone. You're good.
Yeah. So, it's funny. I just went through this myself. So last February, when the pandemic starts, I was like, I'm going to go look in these beach communities to go buy a house as an investment and possibly to use all Airbnb or whatever, because nobody's going to be going down and they're going to be suffering. Well, it was the complete opposite. everybody flocked to these communities because now they can't travel. So they went to these places, these beach communities to live. So it literally took me. I'm in the business. I have connections all over the place, and I have financing options. It took me 1 year to close on a house down there. That's how long it took me to find something, get an accepted offer, make it through inspection, and that's, so what I'm saying is that for everybody who's just starting the process, you got to be patient, but at the same time, you need to be ready, because if you're not, then it may never happen.
Right. I totally agree. You just threw out there the Airbnb. So I like to ask people that, dabble in that area.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Airbnb market, as an investor standpoint? Like, do you like to buy houses in those type of areas where, beaches or, snowboarding areas or, mountain, where you're going to get that constant Airbnb flow compared to, buying, a single family or a multifamily, dwelling and, renting it out,
I love it right now, and I'm going to ride it as long as I can ride it, because for a couple of reasons. So first, it's probably 50% of my portfolio at this point, and I'm increasing, right? Yeah, so I'm increasing. So I like it for a couple of reasons. First of all, people like experiences, right? Like, people want to have an experience when they rent a house, and even if they live somewhere, they'll go do a staycation, they'll go someplace. They want to have these experiences when they go to houses. So I like the idea of buying houses that create an experience, something special. And I think there's value there. Short-term rentals, it's less wear and tear on the house. It really is, because somebody's not there every single day constantly. And if you look at the return rate on your money for some of the Airbnb strategies, it's a lot higher than it would be if you did long-term rentals. And that brings me to my next point. So I went down to Florida to look for a property, and I found something in Ocala, it was horse country, but they just put up this World Equestrian Center down there. They spent $5 billion on it. They have like this historic downtown. So I went and looked at 11 properties in one day. I went down there for one day and just looked at it as much as I could, right? The only house I could really make a decision on that made sense for me was an Airbnb property, because there's websites that give you the stats on Airbnb. They give you the exact number. So like AirDNA is one of them. If you go to AirDNA and put a zip code in, it'll give you the exact amount the houses in that area are Airbnb for, and the percentage that they're vacant, right? So the area I was looking in, I forget what it was. The property was, the average at night was like between $200 and $300, and they were vacant only 50% of the time. So I said, all right, let's take worst case scenario. Let's take low end, $200 a night, and I'm only renting it 50% of the month. Even at that, I was still at a pretty high profit. And if you were looking at it as a cap rate, I was at like 22, 23 cap, which you're not going to get in most properties. So I saw it as an opportunity. Like, all right, I know this property can make money this year, and I know it's a growing area because it's an experience area, and experience areas in general will appreciate because people want to be there, right? So, right. And I'm not saying that works all the time. It's not foolproof, but I think that depending on where you're looking, it makes sense. And I still find traditional rentals in the right areas, I think, are still very, very useful. I'm still buying those. But Airbnb is definitely, I think, if you're going to build a portfolio for yourself, Airbnb property should 100% be a part of it.
Yes, it's definitely interesting because I feel like, the beginner investor or the people that, are starting to develop, 5, 6, 7, 10 houses per se, if you have them in a Section 8 program or a CDC program and, that money is liquid every month, you don't have to worry about anything compared to, the cash tenant or the Airbnb model where, if nobody's booking, you could have a month that is completely, negative.
Yeah, and especially now, like, tenants are going through hard times. It's hard to keep people out. There's all kinds of other problems going on right now. But even the other thing, too, what COVID did is now people are exploring areas they never would have explored before because they were going to Europe or Mexico, whatever. Now that they can't go to those places, they're exploring these other areas. So, the initial thought would be, okay, well, you can travel again and those areas will be dead again. Not necessarily, because now somebody went somewhere, they had a good experience there. They'll take a trip there for a couple of days, 3-4 days, instead of spending $1 million to go out of the country. So, I think that this, seeing what happened with COVID, and I've listened to podcasts with the CEO of Airbnb before they went public, and they raised something crazy. At the beginning of COVID, they raised $3 billion in like 5 days or something like that.
Yeah, it was a wild number.
Yeah, it was a crazy number, and because they were worried. And what happened is that their business has increased. Because now they're doing RV rentals and they're doing this and they're doing that. And, it's just, I think right now it has to be part of the model, but, also be careful in going into it. Make sure that town is Airbnb friendly. Make sure this stuff, look at the stats before you just jump into it. But for me, it's really so far. It's really. I have 3 properties right now that are only Airbnb, and I have another 3 properties that are kind of both.
Gotcha. So, I know you do a lot of stuff, obviously, in the city when it was open. For us that are on Long Island, obviously with COVID, everybody would have been leaving the city. Everybody's coming to Long Island.
Yeah.
Our jobs became absolutely bonkers out here. It's been like absolute chaos. In the beginning, it's dying down a little bit. Not as many people are coming out all at one shot. Do you think that's going to start slowing down anytime soon, where the people are going to say, listen, we waited this long, we're still in the city, like we're going to stay? Or do you think people are still going to keep thinking of leaving and coming to the island, getting more property, getting, out of the shoebox per se that they may live in, and, get out?
It's hard. It's hard for me. So I grew up in Brooklyn, and I lived in Manhattan for a long time. So, I have an affection for it no matter what, always, right? Yeah. I think that New York City will always be New York City in some way, shape, or form, and it'll figure out a way to recreate itself. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it'll figure out a way to recreate itself. But I also feel like life has changed, and I have friends that left the city and still haven't come back. They went and stayed somewhere else, and they still haven't come back. I think that life living in small spaces is going to change forever, because now more people are working from home, and they're not going back. They're going to stay working from home. Yep. So I think that you're going to continue to see an influx of people coming out that way, because lifestyles are changing no matter what. And Manhattan, it will be Manhattan again in some way, shape, or form, but inevitably people will move out to the suburbs more now, and I think that'll continue.
Yeah, because basically what you just said, all these companies, even us at Cardinal, we were so ahead of the curve. We were working remote for weeks before COVID even shut anything down, right?
Yeah.
So with how great their software is, we could go wherever we want to go. And COVID, that really opened up a lot of these businesses to the same thing. All these, places are closing down, not, restaurants aside, not the restaurants, all these businesses that are downsizing, from their 3,000 square foot, place, they're downsizing to 1,000 square feet, or they're saying, we're just going to go virtual the entire time, and we're going to have these employees come in 2 days a week once things open up, and they'll work remotely 3 days a week. Do you feel like that's going to be the new thing, or do you think once these open up, these companies are still going to want to have, everybody coming into the office, or is it going to be more stay home, remote? As long as we're getting their work done, they're going to stay there.
It's so my wife works for DB, and she's been home for a year now almost. And they just moved offices, and they took less space, but they did open up offices. But I will tell you that she probably wants to go back, because I think she's working more at home than she worked in the office. Like, I see her working more to 7, 8 o'clock at night, because she can. She worked. So I think people are going to have a need to want to still be in offices, but I think you're right. I think companies have realized that it's more cost effective to keep them home. And I think when they look at the books at the end of the year, they got more production out of people at home than they got in the office. And a lot of businesses, not every business. So yeah, I think those spaces will change completely, and people will downsize.
Probably cut in half too. If they're downsizing these places, they're spending $20,000 a month in rent. Now, the downsize are paying, $7,000. They're like, all right, we're just making, it's almost like a no-brainer as long as the production is the same.
No, I mean, the fund that backs Cardinal Financial, which is Fortress, had 3 floors on right by 57. They were at 55th Street and Park OLX, I believe, and they're down to 1 floor now, because so it just everybody see, even people who, and Wall Street was always a place where you had to be in the office for compliance reasons, like you had to, and they're even changing. So once that changes, I think it all changes.
Yeah, I 100%. I agree. I'm hoping that as long as we don't get shut down again, we can keep doing our thing.
Yeah,
I don't care what happens.
I agree. I completely agree.
So I just wanted to, touch for 1 or 2 minutes on the Real Estate Disruptor. So I know we didn't really dive in a lot about really what it is, and what the plan or the direction is. The next 5-year plan. What's your goal with the Real Estate Disruptor, and for the people that never heard of it, in a nutshell, what really is it?
So it started as a branding conference. The first thing I ever had was like a social media branding conference where I brought in like all these high-level marketers to come speak to real estate people about how to grow their brands. And then after the first event, I realized that there was really a need for information, and there was a need, people wanted to be educated. So, and then I realized that like everybody was very supportive. So it became really community-based for me. And we started holding these events free just to help educate people. And through educating people and providing value, they brought business to us. So now it's kind of morphed into, we put a scholarship out over through COVID where we got, our first class was 5 people. We got 3 people licensed in either mortgage or real estate, and 2 people got full-time jobs. So now I'm starting a leadership academy out of it. That's going to be first quarter this year. We're going to launch the first class where it's going to be, they're going to come in, they're going to learn how to be a licensed loan officer or a licensed real estate agent. Hopefully go work for one of our companies. But if they don't, they don't. It's kind of, I'm trying to create better leadership within our business through the Real Estate Disruptor. I want to create more educated, younger, better leaders, or they don't have to be young, but better leaders within our industry, just by giving everybody the access to things that I have access to. I'm in the business 20 years. I have all this access to things. I want to give everybody else that access. Through that, we're actually launching a television show next month called the Disruptors Network that's going to stream. I signed a deal to have it stream on Amazon Prime, Roku, Apple TV, and YouTube TV. And it's so it's launching February 18th. We've been filming for like the last 4 or 5 months. And, you know, I was part of hosting a real estate show called The American Dream last year. And it's a national show, and they do a good job, but it's a very cookie cutter standard real estate show. And as I was doing it, I was like, I don't know if this fits what I really want to do with the voice that I have, right? So that's where I kind of went out and tried this stuff. And Disruptors Network is going to focus on real estate professionals and/or entrepreneurs who are building something so they're successful at whatever they're doing, and they're using their success to educate others. And we've been focusing on those type of people to interview for the show, and you know, just about getting the word out there more to draw more people into it, to help more people, to create more people in this industry, to kind of grow it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. I think I'm excited to see the show. That should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So, you know, we'll wrap it up, and I like to end it with, what's the 5-year plan for Ralph? You know, in general, what are you trying to do in the next 5 years? You know, obviously once COVID's over, whatever the case may be, where do you see, what's your plan? What's your 5-year goals? You know, what are you looking to do?
So it's funny because I had this last year, and this, we were having this conversation, and we've been able to work through it. And this has been a really, really good year professionally for me, for sure. Like financially, professionally, it's been really, really good for me. I've been able to grow. And when I look at it and I have people talk to me about it, I don't feel anywhere near fulfilled. Like, I don't feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, I want to sit back and I really just want to keep growing what I'm doing. So, you know, in 5 years, I really want to make Disruptors Academy into something that's nationwide, that's a lot bigger, where I'm continuing to educate the platform. And then with that platform, providing employment for those people through all the companies that we're involved in every single day. And I would like more than anything to see from that, those people, the people that we're educating, spawn off into their own adventures. Right. The entrepreneurs who will kind of become leaders of industry. And if in 5 years I can sit back and see that was the case, that we created all these leaders and helped all these businesses and people are a lot better for it, I will be very, very happy.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I like that you're very all about like the agent, all about, you know, the loan officer, all about, you know, growing them. You know, you did enough for yourself, and now it's like you're using what you have to kind of give back to let these other people grow. Yeah, no, for sure. But I think that I realized, you know, a few years back that like educating and helping really is what I get high on. So if I can do that and make money at the same time around it, then I'm content. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if people like what they have to see, you know, like what they heard from you, they're interested in, you know, picking your brain or, you know, learning about Cardinal or any, you know, vice versa, you know, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
So my Instagram is best. I answer all my messages. It's at Dibug, at Dibug. So definitely contact me there. We have the Disruptors Network IG, which is a good place to get in touch with everybody in the company. So hit us there. And then look out for the show. It should be out next month. And, you know, if anybody's interested in it or just wants to talk about real estate, I'm available. All right, guys. So you heard it there first. Ralph's open to anybody who has any questions. Thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure you guys are crazy busy. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the platform. No, thanks, man. So again, if you're looking to buy or sell a home on, you know, Nassau County, Suffolk County, you have anything real estate related, feel free to reach out to us and our team over at Exit Realty, 516-732-6398. We'll be more than happy to help answer any questions you have. And then one last question for Ralph before we go. Peanut butter, chunky or smooth? That's good. I like smooth still. I love peanut butter too. I'm a guy though.
All right, man. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate
Good,
it.
man. Talk to you.
I take care.